Okay, we are live and we're coming to you from beautiful downtown southern sunny California. Today we'll be talking about a president, and if a president is caught in treason, what are the ramifications? Who does the judging? Where does it go? How is it dealt with? So before we get into that, I want to thank everyone for being here that comes into the live stream, and for all those that will be here after the live stream. But first I need to go over the Insane Friends, because that's hashtag Insane Friends. And Sundays we have Sunday Live, Sane Auto, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, p.m. Then we have Gregory Salvadori, Sunday, at 9 p.m. Then we have Etard Adventures on Monday, 9 p.m. Tuesday we have Bubbacification at 7:30 p.m. On Wednesday, we have Sane Enterprise. They talk about business and different aspects of YouTube and whatnot. Sane Enterprise. Victor Sane, Sane Auto. Following Sane Auto, this is all Eastern Standard Time, we have Muscle Car Appraisal. Good friends. They appraise cars, antique cars, classic cars, new cars. I'm sure they do boats, motorcycles, everything. That is Muscle Car Appraisal. Then we have on Thursday, we have Dorito and Luce Card, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Then we have yours truly, Easy 2 Tips and Tricks, ECT, etc., etc. Here at 7 p.m., if not later, unfortunately. That's Thursdays. Then we have Saturday. We're going international. Choppers Rule 1. That is 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Although for Choppers Rule 1, they are in Australia and they will be live. Actually, their time is 9:30 Saturday morning. Then we have 9 a.m. Fab Automotive Detailing, Saturday morning. Well, that's it for the lineup. Check out these guys' videos. Check out their channels. This is a good group. We have a good group here. And everybody does something different. And so check out, find out, which channel you really like. And check them out. All right, so with no further ado, we're going to watch David V Gibbs. He has given me his personal permission. He's prepared to write a letter for me if necessary to YouTube in the event when I get monetized one of these days, whenever that is, if necessary, in my behalf, giving me his personal permission to show his videos, express permission to show his videos. He wants people to understand the Constitution. He wants people to understand the legality of the Constitution and our federal laws. And he's been studying this since he was a preteen or a teen. And he's an author, he's a speaker, he's a radio host, and he's a friend. And I really am glad, thankful that he's allowed me to show I'm honored to show his videos. And so, no further ado, let's do this. what happens if a present president commits treason or a past president commits treason? What happens? Where do we go with all of this? Who handles it? And what makes it stick? All right, let's do this.
Welcome to Constitution Television, Constitution TV here on YouTube. My name is Douglas V Gibbs, your host, douglasvgibbs.com, politicalpistachio.com, and you can send me questions at douglasvgibbs@yahoo.com or constitutionspeaker@yahoo.com. I'd like to welcome you to this particular episode. This one is a question asked by Ron. And here's the question. I want to read it word for word so we get the full gist of the question here. I'm not sure if you know how the Obama administration spied on Trump and potentially engaged in a coup to remove him. Obviously, a guilty verdict will have to be rendered to make my question valid. My question is, if Obama is found to have been treasonous, what are the repercussions? I have heard if a president is found guilty of treason while he was president, any actions he took, court appointments at any federal level up to and including Supreme Court, legislation signed and executive orders signed become null and void. If this is the case, are all actions he took reversed? Does it go by the date in which the offense was committed? There are a lot of people out there who want to know. If you do a video about this, I will share the heck out of it. All right, well, let's talk about this. And there's many layers to the question, so this video may wind up a little longer than the more recent ones, but we'll go through this as best as we can. And also, when it comes to a question about if a president is prosecuted for treason. In the case of Obama, we're looking at a former president, if a former president is prosecuted for treason. But I'm also going to enter into this if a current president is prosecuted for treason. We'll answer both questions because we have a lot of liberal friends out there that would love to see President Trump impeached for treason. They think he's guilty of treason. And conservatives believe that Obama was guilty of treason. And we're going to go through the definition of treason and the repercussions and all of that in this video. So, okay. So first of all, let's pull out the Constitution. And I've marked my constitutions in some places so we can find it quickly. So I basically found all the places that discuss impeachment and treason. I'm going to discuss each of them independently, and then hopefully at the end they'll all come together into a picture that we can properly understand. So the first time that impeachment appears in the Constitution is in Article 1, Section 2. Now remember, Article 1 of the Constitution is regarding the legislative branch. Article 2 is regarding the executive branch. Article 3 is regarding the judicial branch. So let's recall that. And it is the very last sentence of Article 1, Section 2, and it reads as such. The House of Representatives shall choose their Speaker and other officers and shall have the sole power of impeachment. Sole power of impeachment. What is impeachment? Impeachment is not removal from office. Impeachment is the indictment charge. So, only the House can charge. And then it goes to the Senate for the hearing, which I'll talk about in a minute. Now, this is significant because of the way the Congress was originally set up. Originally, Congress had, our bicameral Congress, our two-house Congress, had two unique, different from each other branches houses of Congress. So in other words, they were like a mother and a father, in a marriage where you have two totally different and distinct different parts of the body. The Senate, the senators were appointed by the state legislatures. So the senators' main interest was what was best for their state. The members of the House, as they are today, were voted in by the people, democratically. So therefore, the House of Representatives was the voice of the people. The U.S. Senate was the voice of the states. So by reading this, what it's saying is only the people have the power of impeachment. Only the people can levy charges, okay, against our critters in the federal government.
Animals.
All right, so that's the first part. Now here's the second part, and this is where we talk about the Senate a little bit. In Article 1, Section 3, it says, the Senate shall have the sole power to try all impeachments. Okay, so the people's house charge, but the house that belongs to states, and these were expected to be politicians with that were more savvy politically and more experienced. Now, if you look at the requirements, minimum requirements for House versus for the Senate, for the House it's 25 years of age, for the Senate it's 30. So on and so forth. So these are supposed to be wiser, more politically savvy members of Congress that are in the Senate. And they're the ones that do the trial. In other words, it's okay, people, you want to charge this guy? Let's find out. All right, when sitting for that purpose, they shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the United States is tried, the Chief Justice shall preside. Now realize that normally the President of the Senate is the Vice President of the United States. But what this is saying is if the Senate has gotten together for an impeachment, a trial for impeachment, a hearing, the Vice President steps aside and the Chief Justice comes in to preside. So the Chief Justice is the one with the gavel. The Chief Justice is the one who's basically being the judge over the case, and the members of the Senate are the jury, essentially. And, well, the jury and the lawyers and everything else that goes along with it. And no person shall be convicted without the concurrence of 2/3 of the members present. Okay, so in the case of impeachment, the House only needs to impeach with a simple majority. But when it comes to the Senate, it requires a 2/3 of members present, and there must be a quorum, so at least half plus one, in other words, a majority, needs to be there, present. And then out of those present, 2/3 are required for the impeachment to go into play. Convicted. Okay. Judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than removal from office. What that's saying is the criminal part of impeachment, the criminal part doesn't happen here. This is just to decide what the punishment is, all the way up to removal from office is going to be. Then it says, and disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit under the United States. So removal from office could mean P. Rose was banned from baseball. You get banned from government. But the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to indictment, trial, judgment, and punishment according to law. In other words, if there is going to be a criminal case, there can be, but it's after they're removed from office. So the impeachment is only for deciding whether or not they're going to be removed from office. So now in case of President Obama, he's gone. So there is no impeachment. There would only be a trial afterwards, a civilian trial, but that still can play. That still can happen. In the case of President Trump, while he's holding office, let's say hypothetically, that they pulled off an impeachment, that'd be the removal. Then once he's out of office, then there would still be the steps of going through the process of the criminal trial, charging, grand jury, all that jazz. Grand jury doesn't happen while they're in office, per se, because the impeachment is all about the House charging and the Senate hearing, and then whether or not they're removed, and that's it. So even if, like, back when Obama was president, if he had gotten in trouble for impeachment, they couldn't have, like, charged him and jailed him while he was still in office. He would have needed the impeachment process be removed from office. Then once removed from office, then the criminal part comes in. And then criminal charges are given, and, process starts all over again, so to speak. All right. Next part. This is in Article 2, Section 2, and it says, "Shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment." What that's saying, remember Article 2 is the president. What that's saying is the president may pardon anybody for anything except in cases of impeachment. That's why it was significant that Nixon resigned before he was impeached. Ford was able to pardon him because he had not actually been impeached. In other words, charged by the House. Had impeachment gone through, there would have been no pardon. There couldn't have been, okay? So, now, next part here. Article 2, Section 4 of the U.S. Constitution. And this one actually creates a lot of confusion. "The President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office on impeachment for the conviction of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors." In other words, conviction by the Senate. If there's an impeachment for any other reason, then they could be censured or whatever. But here, what it's saying is the President, the Vice President, and the civil officers of the United States, if they're convicted of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, which pretty much means any crime, because high crimes is not, a lot of people believe that high crimes is, it's a big crime, like a felony. No, high crimes are crimes committed by someone holding high office. And so the President, Vice President, and all civil officers of the United States shall be removed from office. Some people believe that if the President is removed from high office for those reasons, that means the Vice President and the civil officers also have to go. That's not what it's saying. It's saying if the President or the Vice President or the civil officers of the United States are guilty and convicted as such by the Senate during an impeachment trial of treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, the punishment has to be removal from office. It can't be censure or something like that. All right, now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Now we're going to start getting into where we're answering Ron's question more directly. This is in Article 3, Section 2. "The trial of all crimes, except in cases of impeachment, shall be by jury." All right, so if it's not by jury, that means it's an impeachment. If it's not an impeachment, it's by jury. If it's impeachment, it's by Senate. Okay? Article 3, Section 3. This is the definition of treason. "Treason against the United States shall consist only," the word only is very important there. That means this is it. Nothing more than this. "In levying war against them," against the states, them being the states, "or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort." All right, so now this is important. What this means is that disloyalty, bad policy that harms the United States, those are not reasons for treason. Those are not treason. Sloppy handling of classified material, it's not treason. which some of what Obama did while in office, was it technically treason? I think some of the things can be considered that. But a lot of things people think was treason is not treason. Once again, let me read it again. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them, or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. The bad deal with Iran was not treason. Now, arming an enemy that's being used to levy war against the states, let's say, the Fast and Furious scandal. It depends on if those guns got in the hands of who are considered enemies. I would say if Middle Eastern terrorists were getting their hands on those firearms, and I believe they were, then that would be treason, because it was aiding in them levying war against states. As they come into the United States, they're using the firearms to levy their jihad or holy war against the states. So I guess that could be considered treason. Really bad policy is not treason. Okay. And it's interesting too, because when it comes to treason, what was it, Kramer versus the U.S. in 1945, really kind of changed how cases about treason are put in play. What it did is it allowed for non-treason charges without the procedural safeguards of treason to be charged. In other words, things that would be normally considered treason, but they're like right on the fence there, they could be considered non-treason charges. What that would do when I say remove the safeguards, in other words, it wouldn't take two witnesses, because and I'll get into that in a minute. So by Kramer versus U.S., look it up, 1945, really kind of started that process where they kind of dance around treason with non-treason charges. And by 1954, those types of cases were appearing so much that you really didn't see cases on treason anymore. So because of 1945's Kramer versus U.S., treason has been a difficult criminal case to pursue. That makes sense. All right, so let's continue in section 3 here. So treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort. No person shall be convicted of treason unless on the testimony of two witnesses, which I mentioned just a moment ago, to the same overt act or on confession in open court. The Congress shall have power to declare the punishment of treason. Let me now correct a lot of folks out there on this one. I can't count how many people have said, oh, well, the penalty for treason is death. It says so in the Constitution. No, it doesn't. What it says in the Constitution is Congress has the power to declare the punishment of treason, and they have declared that the punishment is death. Now, that said, not every person convicted of treason has been put to death. There have been cases where, throughout history, and matter of fact, think of a couple cases in 1850, I think it was, where one resulted in death and the other one did not. But not every person found guilty of treason has been executed, historically. But for the most part, Congress has declared the punishment of treason to be death. But it does not say in the Constitution that the punishment for treason is death. So if you hear anybody say that, hey, it says right there in the Constitution, if you commit treason, you got to be executed. That's not what it says. It doesn't say that. Okay. Then it goes on, but no attainder of treason shall work corruption of blood or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. So corruption of blood, in other words, the rest of the family isn't guilty. You're guilty for treason, but that doesn't automatically make your whole family guilty. That's what, in corruption of blood, that's what that is. Or forfeiture except during the life of the person attainted. Once that person, let's say you're guilty of treason and you're executed, forfeiture of goods or whatever is no longer necessary. It goes, And once again, that protects the family. All right, now, let's get back to the full answer, another part of the answer here. So now, let's say Obama or Trump, either one, depending on which side of the fence you ride, is found guilty of treason, convicted, and put to death. Does the laws that they signed during their presidency remain in effect? There's a belief that if Obama or Trump are found guilty of treason, then anything they signed is null and void, because then it was as if they were not president. And Ron, I'm sorry to say, that's not the case. Only the legislature has the power to reverse law. So a smart legislature, let's say President Obama was found guilty of treason, convicted, put to death. A smart Congress would then revisit those laws that he had signed and reconsider them. But at the time, they were signed into law by what we believe to be legitimate practice. You know, and all countries kind of operate in this manner, as a matter of fact. I'll give you an example. Germany. Germany has a law on the books that doesn't allow homeschooling. It's very restrictive when it comes to schooling. You can only be educated by the state. That law went on the books during the Nazi regime. When Hitler was finally defeated, all the laws that he put in place were not just suddenly gone. Whether or not he was a tyrant, or whatever you want to call him, the fact is the legislation that had gone into place had gone into place. And so it was treated as standing legislation. Same thing with if we have a president who's impeached, or let's say, go back to even the natural born citizen thing. Let's say while Obama was president, they had discovered he was not eligible after all, and he was removed from office due to lack of eligibility. The fact is, when he signed the laws, we believed him to be legitimate, and therefore those laws would still stand. The way to remove them is for the legislature to do so, and a smart legislature would. But it does not automatically make null and void any legislature he had signed, or at least not constitutionally. Now, I perused the best I could the United States Code, and I didn't see anything in the U.S. Code either regarding that. So I don't believe that there's any federal law that would make null and void any laws signed by a president convicted of treason or removed from office for whatever reason, eligibility or whatnot. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says that anything they signed is null and void. So that part of your question, sorry to say, didn't turn out the way you thought it might. But it is a good question because it's been asked a lot. I remember when Obama was in office, I was asked that question a lot regarding the status on natural born citizen. You know, what if he's found to be not eligible? Does all of the things that he signed become null and void? And his appointments become null and void? No. Unfortunately not. There's nothing in there saying that. Nothing that I've seen anyway. If I'm wrong, please show me the U.S. Code section, article, chapter and all that, and I'll take a look at it. But I could not find anything in the U.S. Code, and in the Constitution, there's nothing that says that. All right, hopefully that answers all the questions. I appreciate the question. And it's funny because sometimes people do have a misinterpretation of the Constitution. For example, going back to that the death penalty for all cases of treason is in the Constitution, and it's not. And that's part of the reason I do what I do, because I want to make sure that we do have it down straight. Now, that said, treason is a very serious crime. And in the case of Obama, the eligibility was a very big deal. In fact, to be honest, he wasn't eligible. Not because of any birth certificate in Hawaii or anything, that really didn't matter. If you go back to, not that this is a video about natural born citizen, but I want to say it real quick while it's on my mind. If you go back to Vattel's Law of Nations, the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1790, and we can get into a discussion about how 1795 influenced the 1790 Immigration Act. And the Happersett versus, Minor versus Happersett 1875 case. In all three cases, natural born citizen is defined as a person born of two citizen parents. So Obama could have been born on the front steps of the White House, and by his own admission, he was not eligible because his father wasn't a citizen at the time of his birth. So we did have a president that was not eligible serve an entire 8 years. And nobody cares, or well, some people care, but all that legislation is going to stay in place, even if somebody later declares, oh, he wasn't eligible after all, and everybody agrees. Fact is, all that legislation is still going to stay in place. The only way to repeal it is for the legislature, Congress, to start that process. And that comes from Article 1, Section 1, where it says all legislative power herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. All legislative power is power to make law, modify law, strike down law. All legislative powers herein granted shall be vested in a Congress. Only Congress can begin that process of removing legislation. It doesn't automatically get removed just because a president had signed them. Those pieces of legislation, and then it turns out he was guilty of treason, or it turns out he wasn't eligible. They stay on the books. It's up to the legislature. It's up to our Congress to begin the process of removing them if they so desire. All right, that all said, thank you for watching. Appreciate all of you guys that are out there watching, guys and gals. If you have not subscribed to this page, right down below, see that down there? Or actually, it's over here. Over here. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, subscribe button. Hit it. And right next to that subscribe button, you'll see this little bell. If you want to get notifications that I put out a new video, hit that bell also after you subscribe. If you want to donate to help the cause, DouglasVGibbs.com or politicalpistachio.com. Find the donate button. I'm actually right now redoing DouglasVGibbs.com main page, so it's easier to find my pages, so it's more easier to navigate. And if you want, and let me show you this real quick. I have a new bumper sticker. I wanted to show you. The U.S. Constitution trumps socialism. Send me $5 and your address when you donate, and I'll send you a bumper sticker. When you donate, on the little screen when it comes up, it'll ask if you want your address shared with me. Do so, and then shoot me an email that you did so, and that you did it because you want a bumper sticker. I'll mail you a bumper sticker. $5. I gotta cover my costs. So, U.S. Constitution Trump Socialism bumper sticker. I'll send you one. And that all said, have a great one. Stay safe, stay patriotic, and, well, stay constitutional. We'll see you next time.
Okay. Now,
welcome to Constitution Study Television. I'm your host, Douglas V. Gibbs, DouglasVGibbs.com, PoliticalPistachio.com. As early as the slaughterhouse cases in 1873, the original intent of the 14th Amendment's triad of clauses intended to protect the newly emancipated slaves from unfair laws or treatment as anything other than that of American citizens was challenged and debated. Judicial interpretation twisted and reshaped the clauses, forming protected classes of people and an unequal application of the law. Out of the smoke of history, a new concept arose. In the search of equality and a satisfying tactic for civil rights, the concept of protected groups arose. Now, as time passed, special privileges and laws that produce preferential treatment have emerged. Some people have laws passed only for their protected group. Do some rights outrank others? Because someone resides in a particular position in society? The original intent of the 14th Amendment was to ensure laws that created obstacles for a particular group were not passed, not laws with advantages for particular groups. We are all Americans, and when it comes to our natural rights, well, we are all human. When it comes to our natural rights are enjoyed by everybody evenly, equally. Natural rights are given to us by God, and God, of course, sees us all as his children equally. We all have the same rights. Unfortunately, societies and governments have emerged that interfere with those rights. For example, the right to keep and bear arms, that exists with every human, but there are many governments that don't allow people access to that right. We all have the right to free speech. We all have the right to life and liberty and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, governments by men sometimes create obstacles to those rights. Now, when it comes to our rights here in America, in the Declaration of Independence, the Founding Fathers explained it quite clearly. Number one, we're all created equal. Moments after you're born, all bets are off and the equality ends, and we go wherever we go based on our talents or our skills. And when it comes to our rights, when it comes to that created equal in the eyes of God and the law, you have the rights that are listed in the Declaration as life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We all have those rights. We all have a right to life. We all have a right to liberty. We have a right to pursue happiness. We don't have a right to be happy. We have a right to pursue it. I don't have a right to health care, but I do have a right to pursue it. I don't have a right to be treated equally in a restaurant. I have a right to pursue it. In other words, find a place that is going to treat me that way. I don't have a right for a cake to be baked a certain way. I do have a right to pursue it. Now, honestly, the 14th Amendment had an even narrower scope than being applied today. And when it comes to our rights and all of that, the primary purpose of the amendment was to ensure that all citizens, including the newly emancipated slaves, receive the same benefit associated with their natural rights as was being enjoyed by white citizens. Civil equality was expected to extend beyond simply in the eyes of God and the law, but also politically and socially. Society, however, bucked the idea continuously, especially in the South. So as expected, the cultural adjustment to equality took over 100 years to even get close. Now, unfortunately, it was then that the progressive left hijacked the accomplishment, claimed it for themselves, and they completed construction of a new plantation system. And this time, however, rather than dependence on a white Democrat plantation owners through slavery, this time it would be dependence on a white Democrat politician through government programs and dependency upon government. Now, the special treatment as a protected class, this idea of protected class is spread to sex and lifestyle and other things. Special treatment through special laws have been extended to women, homosexuals, Muslims, Hispanics, cross-dressers. I mean, being merely American has become a handicap. And it's even gotten to the point where illegal aliens are receiving preferential treatment under the law over their counterparts who in society who are actual citizens.
Okay, now that was an extra added bit of David V. Gibbs' knowledge of the Constitution and how things are being handled. We can watch this again. If you would like to see the rest of this and from beginning to end next week, let me know. And we will do that. So we will continue. I'm surprised no one has showed up. Well, few. And I thank you all for being here. And I thank all of you that up here after the live stream. I hope you're still here after the live stream. I realize this might be kind of boring for some. You may not understand it quite too well. But wrap your head around it. Any words have meaning. You know, our lawmakers, when they write the law, they are choosing their words wisely. They're choosing their words carefully. Because words have meaning. A lot of them, they are connected back to Greek and Latin. And they're using those words because of their roots of the definitions of what that word is composed of, therefore what it means. And they have the education to have studied that, and that's why they use the words they're using. Most of us common everyday people, we don't know that in general, I say. If I'm wrong, I stand corrected, then please correct me. But we often don't consider our words and the value and the importance of our words and the meanings that are connected to the words we use. And so when the Constitution was put together, they were very careful in the words they used, the choices that they made in choosing each word that was chosen. And they used a different terminology, they used different thought process back then. And so our Constitution was very strategically designed and put together for our best welfare, for the betterment of society. Not just for them, but for all time. I forget who it was that said it, but he says, I've given you a republic if you can keep it. And I believe it starts with just understanding and learning what the Constitution means and understanding the verbiage and the content and how it's written. And this is something David does. When he teaches, he gives you a very explicit, broke down, simplified, and he simplifies the content. He understands it. And I'm learning, and there's so much to learn, so much to know. You know, we're too busy, out having fun, vacationing, working 24/7. Our heads are buried in the sand while our politicians are footloose and fancy free, for lack of a better word or term. But while we're busy, either caught up with work or worry because we don't have enough money, or so we got so much money, we're just out living the high life and traveling, and we're not paying attention to what they're doing. That's my point. And so I say, united we stand, and united we make it happen here on YouTube. United we stand as America. And the world even. But we got to get back to basics. This 2020 federal ID is a blatant, defying, defilement of the Constitution. It's blatant violation of our Constitution. I've said in the past that I've learned that our Constitution either gives Congress, gives the President, gives the government, the lawmakers permission to do, or it doesn't give them permission to do. And our forefathers put the Constitution in place to protect our rights, our God-given rights. And it's defined pretty well in the Constitution. And our forefathers designed a republic to protect that because of what was going on in England before they came to America for freedom. Abuse of power. And so our forefathers put these things in order, and they've taken the Constitution out of our schools. How long ago? This generation is so clueless. My generation, unless you went to school and you studied it, and that was your whole focus, was to know the Constitution and learn it and understand it, most of my generation doesn't really understand it. And all our politicians, our government know this. And they're using that to their advantage. Knowledge is power. Power is knowledge. We need to know our Constitution. We need to know our rights. This 2020 federal ID, if it doesn't get overturned, the lawmakers need to return it around. President Trump needs to overturn it. You know, we need to be calling the White House. We need to be calling our political parties. We need to start making noise about this. We need to start talking about this. You know, when you're at a restaurant, standing in line at the grocery store. There are people that have taken it. They didn't know. They just knew what they were told, but they don't know the Constitution, and they weren't given the Constitution any thought. But it's we the people. We the people what? We the people of America. The United States of America. The greatest place to live on earth so far, if we don't lose it. We've got to get back to basics, America. We've got to get back to basics. God, family, country, marriage. Marriage is losing its value in our society today. If you can destroy the family unit, you can destroy America. Think about that. Let that resonate. What are your thoughts? We need to hold our marriages together. God created a man and a woman and children. It's what God created, marriage. It's defined. And we're getting so upside down. We're turning our back on God. Our country was built and founded on God. And we're turning our back on God, and the country's falling apart. United we stand. We the people of America. We need to know our Constitution. Remember, if you can destroy the family unit, anything goes. It's a free-for-all. And you can destroy America. Like, subscribe, and share. I look forward to hear from you. And I'm not trying to offend or irritate anyone. Please hear my heart. Our family unit, marriages are falling, dropping like flies. We got to get back to basics. God, family, country. Look forward to hear from you. Like, subscribe, and share. Bye for now. Look forward to hear from you, and God bless. And remember, never give up. I have faith in you. I have faith in God. I have faith in you. Never give up. God makes a way. Unless his people turn their backs on it. It's our choice. What are we going to do?